Welcome to another episode of The Local Dive. This is Alex Scott, joined by Dean and Sarah.
Hello.
Ashlyn Portero.
Hello.
Producer Jacob.
Hello.
What's up, everybody?
Producer Jacob in the house.
We've got the band back together. It's been
There it is.
It's been a long time since the pop has topped.
Last one in the fridge that wasn't
Top
The top has popped.
Last one that wasn't coconut flavor in the fridge, which is like drinking sunscreen.
Yeah, I was going to say,
See,
no
drinking,
copper tone sport
what
for me.
flavor is that?
It's a cherry bubbly, I think.
Yes, cherry bubbly. Very good.
That can would make me sad because it is like the same color as Dr. Pepper. And so I just look at it and I'm like,
This is not what
I'd
it's
rather
supposed
be
to be.
drinking Dr. Pepper.
I love that on the tab, whatever it's called. Is that what it's called, a tab?
The tab, yep.
It just says, hey, yo.
Hey,
bubbly.
yo.
Bubbly's almost worth getting that over LaCroix just for the hey, yo. So,
Yeah.
hey, yo.
Hey, yo. Well, we are all back together. It's been like a decade since this happened, so it's good to be together. We previewed an episode last week called Shiplap Scriptures, but due to some recent events with the executive committee, we're actually going to push that back. So this is another preview for Shiplap Scriptures, and also,
In case you missed it last time.
also we'll be diving into really what's going on with Southern Baptist life and the executive committee, and we'll kind of talk through all of that in a little bit, and just their handling of some motions that were made in Nashville at the annual meeting, and with the sex abuse task force, and just kind of, it's been a hot mess. And Dean, you've been right in the middle of it, and so we'll jump into that and talk about what it is and why it matters, and maybe where things move from here. So before we do, as we always do, we'll wade into the shallow end. And we just got back from Kansas City, and we've had the fortunate opportunity, many of us to travel, the three of us to travel together quite a bit over the years for annual meetings and conferences, and sometimes just for fun. And so being that Kansas City is a pretty good food town, if you like smoked meat, we figured it would be a good thing to talk about on the shallow end.
Vegetable fast is about to begin.
Ashland's starting the Daniel plan tomorrow.
Yeah.
So what are some of your favorite foods, travel restaurants, travel foods from, and we're not talking like licorice and RC Cola.
It's my gas station
that
snack on a road trip.
That is a travel food, but not that. But like,
Wait a minute. So you have a preferred gas station snack, but I get grief every time I get my preferred gas station snacks.
Because it's a truffle from the Busy Bee.
Mine are like processed, packaged from the truck foods.
Mine are fresh in a case where I can see them.
You're trying to get high-end food from a gas station. Therein lies the problem.
Whatever.
But anyways.
Walking in the Busy Bee with you is just it's embarrassing.
Listen, Froyo is the same just about anywhere, okay?
All right. So non-road trip snacks. What are some of y'all's favorite food experiences from traveling the lower 48?
So like us together, the three of us, or
Yeah.
just in general?
The three of us together.
Yeah. So I would say
because I want other people to be able to like give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
Yeah. I got to go our breakfast spot, our Midwest to West Coast breakfast spot first, Snooze.
Yes. Praise hands.
Yeah, which we will go to.
Strong affirmation here.
Yeah, when we go somewhere with the Snooze, we usually go more than once in the mornings. Phoenix, Dallas, Houston,
now Kansas City.
Yeah. So that's
Slowly making its way eastward.
just a great breakfast spot. Like it's nice and it's
Yes.
all, but it's like good.
Yeah.
So a lot of the good breakfast spots are kind of like dives, you know.
Yeah, they're greasy
This
spoons.
is not that,
No.
but it has like all your staples, and
It's like a bougie diner.
yeah, with really good pancakes too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of which, when we were in Kansas City, this is like, I clearly have no respect for myself. I ate a pumpkin pecan pie pancake, which was a pumpkin pancake with like candied pecans on top, which you could stop there and that would be enough. No. Then they added a custard drizzle to it. Then inside it had a vanilla cream cheese filling. So
You had a very plump pancake.
it's a miracle that my heart is still going right now.
How's your pancreas?
Did I'm not sure.
Did it come with a side of insulin?
I'm still not over. I clearly have no respect for myself.
Well,
I'm just saying.
in the same category, I got
will-
a pineapple upside down pancake that was
yeah.
equally as delicious and terrible for me.
I have to put, if I had to pick like one just meal, the burnt ends at Jack Stacks, or however you say it, Jack Stack.
Jack Stack.
Jack
yep.
Stack are just the best. That's to me is the best barbecue food out there, like anywhere for me.
Yeah, I mean, this sort of maybe brings us full circle to the gas station, but there's a big
there.
controversy about Joe's Kansas City, and it may or may not be in a gas station. The right answer is it's not a gas station. They just have gas, but they also serve barbecue. The Z-Man sandwich, which I did not get to enjoy on this trip, but it's delicious. It's the best. It's the best barbecue in my opinion in Kansas City.
You can get gas for your car. You can get Tums or ibuprofen, or
I thought you were
can
going to say you can get gas for yourself.
that as well.
I was like, oh,
This
he's
has gone
gonna say
off the
it.
handle.
No, I just said it. Maybe, Jacob, you can cut that out. Okay, I would say I'm trying now to think about like a different city.
While you're thinking, I'm just going to bring up
Yeah.
in Washington, D.C.,
Oh yeah,
there is
Definitely.
a great restaurant called the Red Hen.
love the Red Hen.
Yes.
Also down the street is the best Thai food in D.C. I don't know what the name of that place is, but anybody want to tell that story for the listeners because they won't get it.
So we go to this place called the Red Hen. We've been there many times, but we get there, and I forgot to make reservations, which I always do now. I randomly am the reservation guy, strangely, for even though I'm the least organized
You
among
like a
us.
good
Yeah.
reservation.
I'm the dinner reservation guy. So I just randomly forgot for this one. And there's a really long wait. I mean, it's like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. And not because of like COVID. It's like pre-COVID. Just because it's the place to be.
was
It's
like
just a great
2018.
place. And this guy goes, well, the best Thai restaurant in Washington, D.C. was right next door. It's like, wow. Okay. Well, I wanted to go to the Red Hen, but I guess, and our friend Megan Thompson was with us,
Yep.
who works in D.C., former city churcher when she was in Tallahassee. And so we go over there to the best Thai food in Washington, D.C., and it's like the equivalent of like Ming Tree or something. It was like,
Now, to be fair, I think I was the only person who ordered a Thai dish. Everybody else just got fried rice. And so the
Alex actually gave it
the
a
pad
chance.
see ew that I ate was delicious.
it was like
and
China first.
very good.
Which is not from Thailand.
It was very good.
different country.
I don't know if it was the best in DC, but it was. The Thai food was good. But the Red Hen is some of the best pasta dishes I think I've ever had.
I would guess Ashland would bust out the Southern in Nashville.
Yes, it's brunch. Rest in peace, because I think they
yeah,
only.
I think COVID killed their brunch.
I'm not like a huge omelet person, but they had an incredible omelet that I would get. Their grits are really good. It's just like a really good, like nice brunch place. Let's see. I also really like Husk. We've been to Husk
Oh, yeah,
in
Husk was great.
Nashville.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. Yeah, DC, man. DC
Founding
has some good
Farmers is one of our
Yes.
spots in D.C.
Yes.
So if anybody who's going to any of these cities and needs a list, we got you.
We got you.
Yes,
We
we got you
got you.
covered.
Yeah.
Excellent Tex-Mex in Texas. Let us not overlook that. I'm here for all the tacos.
There was a great taco place in Phoenix.
In the old
It was
church.
in like an old church.
What was the
and
name of the Mexican place Jarrett Stevens took us to when we were at Prestonwood?
I think it was Mi Cocina.
That
Yes.
boy, that was great.
Yes.
Yeah, and my favorite is Papacitos for like chain Tex-Mex.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good.
I don't think I've ever had that before.
Mi Cocina is delicious. Very, very good. So, all right.
Yeah,
Well,
that's what
any other food that we feel like we need to get out there? Or should we move on?
This is so touristy.
Culinary
This
experiences.
is so touristy. Forgive me in advance, but I'm not a huge Nashville guy. I go there a lot.
Yeah,
But a pharmacy burger is just quality.
They are good.
it is good.
And just one of their crafted sodas,
You go tots or fries?
tots. Yeah, I'm not
Their
sure.
fries are good.
Yeah,
but-
go with the frozen bag of Trader Joe's tots to the pharmacy all day.
I think most random food adventure that we have had is when we were in Columbus for SBC and we went to the schnitzel place.
Oh, that was amazing.
That was not my
Oh my
favorite.
word! All you can eat sausage buffet. It was amazing.
I was like, where are we?
So I went. I've been twice since.
And then, yes, I think I've been.
Yeah. So I went
At least one
So
other
Alex,
time.
Alex and his family, his wife's family, is all from Cedarville, Ohio. So Alex and Melissa were at Cedarville when I spoke there, and then we went there. And the second time I was up there by myself, and drove 45 an hour to
Yeah,
Columbus.
it's like an hour.
By myself and sat at the bar and ate the sausage
Ate schnitzel
buffet.
and their cream puffs.
Can't.
Their cream
No
puffs are
shame.
like very good and humongous. But Schmitz is the name of that place. Schmitz Sausage House.
And
I think.
we never go to Atlanta
is it
anymore.
Sausage House?
I think it's
Yes.
house.
It's in Germantown.
Yes.
We never go to Atlanta anymore, but the few times we do, I got to give a shout out to Fogo.
Fogo de Chao.
Okay.
Ashland's still not over the 13 limeade she
Quick
drank in 2010.
story. Thankfully, this happened in my 20s where it's like I could just go on like 1 3-mile run and recover, because if this had happened to me now, I would for sure have to do Whole30 to be able to process all of this. Okay, so for those who do not know, Fogo is like, to me, it is like a mecca for meat lovers. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah, and there's a theme with many of the places that keep coming up, and just meat.
Yeah, this is a very
So
meat
Ashland,
forward.
thank you for hanging with the meat
this,
crowd.
This is why my cholesterol is high. So it's a Brazilian steakhouse, and it's the thing where like literally it's just waiters who walk around with like big platters of meat, like we're at a medieval festival or something like that. And you have this little card, and if it's green, they just keep bringing you all the meat. And so, but there's also a drink there called a limeade?
I think it's just limeade.
Limeade. Okay, so I had heard all these people from church talk about the limeades at Fogo. And so one visit, I was like, I'm going to, just win in Rome. I'm going to win in Rio de Janeiro. I'm going to get a limeade. And so I did, and there are free refills on the limeades. So I drank like 4 of them because they are very good, but it's like a milky, it's not like a frozen slushy really. It's like milky, almost like a lime milkshake. So this is my fault for eating lots of meat and drinking these lime drinks.
It's sort of like if lime sherbet in a punch bowl melted.
Yes, that's a good, like
It is the best drink.
it is really good.
Yeah.
Okay, later, come to find out, I was informed that the limeade is made with sweetened condensed milk. So I was like, hold on. You guys just let me drink like 5 of these. I probably drank about 2,000 calories. And I paid for it.
And
so.
ate all the steak
ate
and
all the
chicken
meat.
and whatever else you could.
There was a lot of, it was meat sweat, limeade sweat. It was
Fogo
just
Fogo is the location of my biggest food regret of all time. Well,
that's another segment we need
yeah,
to do is your biggest food.
Fogo de
regret.
Chao and Fuddruckers later. It was a bad choice, but
You were pacing the Hampton Inn at 2 a.m.
Yes.
out in the hallway.
it was miserable. It was
what it's
miserable.
bad.
It was miserable.
You find yourself wandering the halls of a Hampton.
The answer to lots of meat is not, contrary to popular opinion, more meat.
And a milkshake.
Yes.
You got a milkshake.
And a
too.
milkshake. I blame that on you, but hey,
Sorry.
whatever. It's all
Hey,
good.
sentimental moment. We definitely have had a lot of cool trip experiences
Yes,
where
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
where what we get to do in kind of Christian space, whatever you want to call it, has taken us. It's been a lot
It's been
of
fun. It's been fun. So, all right. Well, to a much heavier and unfortunately less fun topic, Dean, you as a newly elected member to the executive committee from the annual meeting in Nashville this June, have started serving in quite a large moment for the executive committee. One of the things that was one of the motions that was passed in the Nashville meeting was on the way that the Southern Baptist Convention and the executive committee, as an entity, which it may be good to even share, kind of what the executive committee does in just a minute, but there was a motion made about an investigation into the way that sex abuse claims have been handled in and around the convention, and there was a motion. In that motion, there was a desire for a independent third-party investigation that included the executive committee waiving attorney-client privilege. So for the last and the creation of a third-party task force to oversee the investigation, so that the EC, which acts on behalf of the convention, was not essentially like the party that is overseeing.
Yeah, you're not going to investigate yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was 100 days to kind of come to hopefully some sort of workable resolution. You were in meetings a week and a half ago for a couple days. That led to a 7-day extension, and then another meeting this past week where another 7-day extension was given. So can you, and obviously there are certain things that were kind of private closed sessions that as an EC member you can't disclose, but based on what is public, can you kind of fill people in on what's going on and where things sit right now?
Yeah, well, our friends Grant Gaines and Ronnie Parrott put forth a motion to call for this investigation and then put the parameters around it. And the messengers overwhelmingly, 15,000 plus voted in favor of this. And in how the Southern Baptist Convention functions, they give the messengers the ones who are the boss. They call the shots, and they send it to us. And our job then as an executive committee is to carry out the assignments given to us. The executive committee is basically how the SBC functions the rest of the year. The Southern Baptist Convention only exists 2 days a year. Mm-hmm. And so the messengers come together. And the rest of the time, the EC, I guess you could say, carries out the fiduciary responsibilities. Mm-hmm. No, more the assignments given to them by the convention, which is anything from overseeing the cooperative program and distribution of it, there all the way to the annual meeting planning, mm-hmm. and everywhere in between. So there's a lot of stuff that's involved. But the executive committee, there's no other way around it. With legal counsel, then the executive committee staff have told the messengers no, and have voted against that. And I am not going to pretend there isn't a lot of complications with attorney-client privilege being waived, and there isn't even nuance around it. I am not even going to pretend for a moment that it is unreasonable to not want that waived. Okay, mm-hmm. I think sane-minded people can differ on this. What I don't think we can differ on is the fact that the messengers have clearly called for this, mm-hmm. and it's unprecedented for a Southern Baptist entity. And it's executive is a little different than entity, but I'm not getting all the technicalities of it, to tell the messengers no. Mm-hmm. And that's not Baptist, first of all. But then on top of that, you have these survivors that are watching and waiting for something to actually happen and for the truth to be looked into and hopefully come out. And the best way to do that, the messengers decided, was through this process. Mm-hmm. And they have been told that they've been told no. They've been told things like, our money matters more and our protection matters more. And they might not have used those words, but functionally that's what they're saying. Mm-hmm. So we even had executive committee in the public session. We had an executive committee member say things like, the 15,000 messengers can't tell us what to do. Are you kidding me?
That's clearly...
That's the most ridiculous thing. That's their job.
Yeah, that's directly contrary
Our job is to carry out the assignments they've given us. So it was terrible. I can't share what happened in the executive sessions. I'm under confidentiality. It was terrible, though. I can say that. It's terrible. And the big picture of what's been happening is it's very split and divided. Mm-hmm. And it was in Nashville a couple of Mondays ago, and Tuesday was probably two of the most emotionally taxing days of my life, because I sadly saw some of the worst in people. Mm. And saw people that are going to go down kicking and screaming and burning the house down to not comply with the messengers. And one of the things you have to ask is why. And I think there are two kinds of people that have voted no against this. I think one are people that's just your classic good old boy politics, trying to protect something, if it's their friend or the brand or something. Mm-hmm. And then the second one is people that are not looking to do that. They just believe that it is the best interest of the convention they represent to protect itself from all these things. I think they're wrong, but that's not unreasonable. Mm-hmm. If there wasn't the motion from the messengers. At the same time, we've only really consistently heard one side of the story. And the majority of the meetings have been the attorneys of the executive committee that have been brought in by the staff, which is its own issue, who have been doing the talking. And I think that a lot of people are voting because out of being scared, and also out of being confused, because they drag it long, they throw all kind of stuff out there, and it's really, really complicated, really confusing. But for me, it's been two things the whole way through. One, it is actually probably three things, I would say. One, it's been the will of the messengers. I think that's why I personally will not vote for anything that doesn't waive attorney-client privilege, because I represent the messengers. So there's no compromise to me. Second is, man, I walked out of the first meeting and saw survivors, and they came up to me and they gave me a hug, and I promised them that we would see this through. So, and then the third thing is there's some bad apples, man. I mean, there's some bad characters here, and not all, but there are some, and the fact that it has to be dealt with. So it's not just me voting in favor of the messengers; it's also me voting as a response to just the corruption I see and just the crookedness. And it's a lot easier to simply just burn a house down, but that's not what we want to do, because institutions can be destroyed in a day, but it takes generations to build them. And the institutions we have are making global impacts. You know, like they're sending missionaries around the world and planting churches and training pastors and the best disaster relief organizations on the planet. And so it's worth it. You know, it's better to clean the house than this. You know, I don't want to sell the house. I want to clean it. I want to purify it. And there's a group of us that are committed to doing that, and not just us, 15,000 messengers. And the response since the refusal. So we've had 2 votes, and both times it's been voted down to waive attorney-client privilege. So an agreement has not been made. So the investigation can't start until an agreement's made. And this is Thursday, September 20th, as I'm talking, and that's 30th. 30th. Thursday, September 30th, as I'm talking, and as of right now, at what time is it? 2 p.m. There has not been an agreement made, and so what we've seen. Pastors and state conventions and churches already making strong statements. Like the SBC is actually being united around this, but there's just some folks that refuse to compromise for whatever reason, and it's unacceptable. So for those of you that are watching, I'm sorry for the madness and the chaos, but just know we're trying to get it right and trying to clean the house, and it just is a very painful and emotional process.
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple things, and then Ashlyn, feel free to jump in here too. But one, as our pastor and as a representative of us on the executive committee, like I think our church and us personally can be very proud of the way that you've led and the effort that you are undergoing to make sure that it is handled well and handled correctly. And so just, you know, for me, thanks for the way that you are that you're serving and trying to do the right thing and the will of the messengers. One of the things that you mentioned in that is that there has been backlash, and that people are calling to essentially defund the executive committee to give around to maintain those entities and those institutions. What, I mean, can you share, can we talk maybe a little bit about what those things, I mean, you mentioned it a little bit, Dean, but like, what are the entities that we want to make sure that we do fund so that people don't just pull out and stop giving altogether? So that the mission can move forward even in the midst of this.
And honestly, everything else we do, because everything else we do is great. It's not perfect, what is, but it's great. It's kosher. I mean, it represents us well, led by people of character and integrity that do the right thing and have a big impact too, not just faithful, but fruitful. So honestly, everything else. So what's happening is this is almost like it has to be, it's sad it has to get to this point. A week ago, people weren't writing statements saying they were going to do this. But now it's almost like the nuclear option. Clearly, money is what drives much of their decision making. So people are making the decision collectively amongst pastors. Like 30 churches in South Carolina, 30 of the largest giving churches to the cooperative program in the state, came out with a statement today saying that they're going to give around the executive committee and just give directly to everything else through their state convention until, not forever, until they get this right. And it's just, it is what it is, man. Like I think churches have the right to do that, but we just have to make sure that in doing so, we're not blaming this on all Southern Baptists. We need to blame this specifically on the executive committee. Like that's whose fault this is. It's not NAM's fault. It's not IMB's fault. Again, if people want to knock on Southern Baptists, 15,000 of us said, like, we're united and said, we're talking about 30 people.
The will of the convention broadly
Yeah.
speaking, is very, very positive.
And every entity head didn't think they were going to have to, because kind of unwritten rule is you don't really speak out publicly against other entities. So they have not had to do that. They weren't wanting to do that, but it was just they couldn't do anything but after that. So you have anyone from Moeller to Aiken to who are seminary presidents, those who are listening, our state convention guy Tommy Green. I mean, people are going, hey, this is a problem.
Mm-hmm. So we've got 5 more days, I think, on the calendar before the kind of the next convening. And at the last meeting, well, really at the first meeting, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I think there were like 17 people voted yes towards waiving attorney-client privilege, and whatever the other 65 or whatever voted no. In the more recent conversation, it seems like more people have come around. It was a much narrower vote, like 35 to 39 or something like that, 35 to waive it and 39 to not. And so hopefully the task force and the EC staff and officers can get to an agreement before then. But Ashlyn, as somebody who's in leadership in an SBC church, as somebody who's sitting, in the pew as well, so to speak, like, how do you think this just indecisiveness and kind of going against the will of the messengers speaks to people who are in our churches, who are watching, who are paying attention, and how does getting this right, communicate clearly that the will of the messengers will be done, and that we also want to be, for the sake of justice and for the sake of the gospel, kind of being represented fairly. Like, why is it important for us to get this right from a church member's perspective?
Yeah, I would say, first and foremost, because we're accountable to walk, in integrity and to be above reproach as Christians. So that's, right there. You have to, and I'm hoping and trusting that the members of the executive committee have sought wise counsel and, through prayer, and all, you want to hope for those things, but then to see a lot of the fruit from, some of these members and just from kind of the way things are, just the resistance and the stubbornness to yield to something that has really effectively already been decided. It just, to see like the managing organization of our convention hold out in that way to really, seem to platform, power and, just a prideful resistance to hear what the people have said, that are all supposed to be working in unity together. It just, puts a bad taste in your mouth, and it's grieving. And, as Dean mentioned, to think about, the many survivors who have spent years or decades of their life, walking through a living hell. And then to know, who is, of course there are, people who are standing up and who are, trying to steer this in the right way. And we're so grateful for that. But just that question of, who really is going to go to bat for us and advocate for us, like that in a way that remains unanswered, not that people aren't doing that, but just in this big way that, it's just really grieving. And so I think also it's essential for the EC to get this right, because, people aren't stupid. We're very attuned to the fact that, sin does still persist, in ourselves individually, in our churches, in our convention. Like for as much as we hold forth the gospel, we know that we all are desperate for the power of Christ because we're sinners. And so I know the EC is not an entity, but for that body to take the wrong position on this, I think, just continues to erode trust and sets a sort of precedent for, I hope and pray that, that scandals do not come up in other entities. But if they do, or if, even as we think about how to protect the vulnerable in other ways, will that be done with integrity? Like, will we really look out for, the least of these? And so I think that there's just so many ramifications that can flow out of this, not the least of which is that we're at a place where trust for institutions is, I think, probably at an all-time low. And so it's like, well, we don't want to say, well, yeah, I understand. I understand because I see how this is being, how this is going. So there's just so many implications from, what you're communicating to people in churches, of course, to the survivors who deserve, everything to be, moved and made to serve them and just to see, the right thing done. It's disheartening. I think there's just so many ramifications for that outcome, that, my hope and prayer is just that it will shift, that it will turn, and that the people who are trying to see to it that happens, that the Lord would have favor and allow that to be done. But I mean, it also just, man, to hear, read quotes and, recaps and things like that on social media, to hear, words from survivors and just to think about like what all of this entails. I mean, it really is just incredibly sobering too, I mean, it's just like, Lord, please keep us, like just protect us from, from walking in whatever it is that leads to these kinds of atrocities. And so, and just how much we should all be seeking wisdom, to be able to act justly, to love mercy, to walk humbly. So I don't know, those are just kind of initial thoughts.
No, that's really good and really helpful. And I think, that last part, especially like that, Lord, keep us, like would be a great prayer for all of us, that we would, in the midst of kind of thinking about this, engaging with this issue, that for the people leading,
well, and I was just going to add one more thing as I think about, some of the conversations we've had in our own church over the last couple of years about, following the ERLC's, Caring Well conference and some of the steps that we've taken to, kind of tighten up our policies and just to make intentional practical moves to make, church a safe place where we safeguard against evil. Mm-hmm. Like for the convention, who should be and is in a lot of, through other entities and through a lot of efforts and initiatives, who, we should be leading the charge to support and equip and resource churches to make sure that, is happening in every single SBC church, not just the ones who can go to a big conference or who read a book or whatever, but, that's what we should be talking about. And so the fact that like those efforts have been happening in a response to what we have seen, like trying to own the fact that sexual abuse has happened in the SBC, to then also on the other side be, dealing with this kind of a scandal at, the EC level. It's just like that dissonance, I think, is really probably jarring for a lot of people.
No, that's helpful. Were you going to say something?
Yeah. And walking out of those meetings, excuse me, the one in Nashville and then the one on Zoom, I think I'm the most defeated and just, worn that I've ever been, and it is just awful. Yeah. and just miserable to see people do whatever, like, and we're talking like pre-calculated maneuvers and to block all this. It's just incredible. And we're doing everything we can to try to flip it.
Yeah, I don't think I've rarely seen you more defeated than you were on Tuesday after that meeting.
It was awful.
One of the things that comes to mind is if they end up in a stalemate and they can't get to an agreement on the issue of privilege, can the task force still move forward, and can they still do a majority of the work that the messengers asked them to do?
I mean, yes, because I think probably 80+% of it wouldn't have been privileged anyways. Mm-hmm. But that's still not what the messengers asked them to do. Right. Like, so I think there's going to be investigation regardless. But there has to be, right? Mm-hmm. But unless the will of the messengers is carried out, people aren't going to be satisfied. So yeah, the investigation is gonna happen. It's just to what extent?
What extent? Yeah.
And I think that's another important point about wanting to see it happen in that way, because the unique aspect of Southern Baptist polity, where it really is meant to be from the bottom up, not top down. Like, then you need consistency when polity directs the operations of of the convention, and so like you want to see consistency there, because we want to be operating in integrity in a spiritual and in a moral sense, but also just like with cohesiveness inside the the structure of the SBC. And so I think even for the EC to understand that, to trust the 15,000 people who were at the convention and who spoke, that sends a message.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, just as I watch this, that is frustrating is I think if we think about the rooting out of sin in our own individual lives, it's not done in secret, and there often is a real cost, like a public cost to sin in our lives, and especially when that is sin against another. And so it seems foolish to me to think that we can get the issue of that, like the sin issue of sexual abuse, under control in secret. And I realize that there may be liability, and that there may be a need for compensation to people who have been harmed, and that could have significant effects on the operations of the convention. But it's not something to me that needs to be done in secret. It needs to be done in the light, and it needs to be done in a way that honors those people who have been hurt and harmed. And I mean, Rachel Den Hollander on Tuesday at the conclusion of the meeting, in response to a comment that was made on the public portion of the live stream, somebody said, like, well, we just have to make sure we have enough money to pay victims. And she basically goes on to say, like, that's not what people who are in the shoes of survivors, as one herself, she's like, that's not what we care about, like, ultimately. And so to frame it as that, I just think is wrong and unhelpful. And like, until it's in the light, it's not going to be dealt with. And so if that means paying a significant financial cost to accomplish the will of the messengers and to deal with this once and for all, I don't understand why we wouldn't do that. Especially when we've seen it handled poorly in other denominations as well.
Yeah, and when people have not proven to be trustworthy, this is really simple. You can't trust them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, even at the public hearings of the meetings too, you see us get lectured for not trusting. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, why do you think we're here? Like,
right.
This is what got us here. Is those acts that have really violated trust. Mm-hmm. So I don't trust the leadership at all.
Yeah. When
it comes to this right now, so I think I don't walk in just thinking that the whole time. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, but give me a break. Now I would trust them if they say, hey, okay, we're going to go forward with the messengers. And I say, okay. You show that you're willing to do the right thing, what you're supposed to do. It's incredible, man. I can't put full words around it. It's absolutely incredible what's happened. And it's uniting people. I mean, like, it's sad it took us this to bring a lot of us together, but man, people are coming together strong against this.
Yeah, which is, thank God, truthfully, that is, it's an unfortunately a negative uniter, but thankfully people are uniting and seeing this the right way, and have a desire to see the will of the messengers move forward. So what happens, or what are ways to maybe fix some of this? Dean, you mentioned there are some bad actors in terms of our polity, and kind of working through the steps and the channels. What are ways that we can address some of those almost failures of leadership from those bad actors?
Elect presidents who are going to appoint people who aren't in those shady camps. And that really goes back to that for the long term. I mean, elections have consequences, is common to see in the national landscape, but like for SBC, it seems is the same thing. So the reason why some of these bad actors are there is because they were appointed by the nominating committee chair and their team appointed by a president. Mm-hmm. It's that simple. So thankfully now we have J.D. Greer Group that just came in. another one coming in a few months, and then Ed Litton's going to appoint a group. So that's how it happens. That's truly how it happens, and that's what has to continue to happen. And then for people to think long game and to stick in it because of our institutions that really matter, make a difference, are worth fighting for. And not only that, if we didn't have any of those things, even if we didn't have any of these things we're talking about, that question Rachel Denhollander asked, how much is a little girl worth? And then we're going to do whatever it takes to protect people and make sure justice is done. Yeah.
That's well said. Any closing thoughts on this issue before we?
I'm just trying to make our church proud. I want to represent the church well. I want them to not be ashamed of their pastor. And when they see these things, they're happening in the SBC that come across our social media feeds and major news outlets that they go, that's not my church. My church is the opposite way. So I hope our folks see it that way. Yeah. Well, there's no doubt that you are representing us well, and that we are proud of you. So hear that and know that. And Ashlyn, do you have any other thoughts on that? No, I don't think so. Cool. Well, as we close, a heavy topic, as we always do, we will transition to the local on tap, and it's fall, y'all. And it doesn't feel like fall; it still feels like summer, but it is fall, and with fall comes all things pumpkin. And so I haven't been into Trader Joe's since fall officially. We ticked over into September 23rd. Yeah, both on the calendar and in Starbucks beverage season. It is fall. So what is your favorite local pumpkin, and by local I just mean you can buy it locally, so pumpkin product in spirit of fall? And Trader Joe pumpkin cookies. Ooh, are those like the sandwich cookies? Yes. Or okay. Those ones, the pumpkin with the cream cheese icing in the middle. Those are good. Nice. Yes. Wait, not the pumpkin JoJo's? Yes, the pumpkin JoJo's. So they're like Oreos except pumpkin. Those, sorry, okay. That's what I meant. I was thinking like a pumpkin cake or something. No. Pumpkin JoJo's. Yes, that is a good call. Ashlyn? I am gonna go. I do love a good pumpkin ice cream. So Publix. I mean, I know it's Publix. It's not like a local restaurant, but like shopping Publix, is a pleasure. Premium pumpkin pie ice cream is so good. Interesting. It's good. It's like pumpkin ice cream, and you get the little like shortbread cookies like mixed in. I like that. I'm really hoping that like maybe there are some good seasonal I'm on the dessert train if you can't tell. Some good local seasonal desserts. Like I'm thinking like a Glorious Food, like pumpkin cheesecake or something like that. That could be pumpkin good. Creme brulee or something. I feel it in my bones. So you know what just always just kind of makes me laugh and roll my eyes, and I'm anticipating because we're about 2 weeks away from it. Are college students who take pictures at a pumpkin patch. Oh, it's no doubt. Sure. It's like roommate pictures at a pumpkin patch. I'm like, if you like, you'd have like a 2-year-old. It's just children should be required for a pumpkin patch. It's so funny and weird to me. Roommate pics at the pumpkin patch. Hey. I'm like, what? It's fall. any reason to have new content for the gram, dude. That's right. Exactly. I'm going pumpkin bread from Trader Joe's, but the middle, like the top of the middle doesn't get totally cooked, and it's like a little gooey. It's delicious. So just wait, is that the kind you buy or bake? You bake it. Okay. It comes in a mix. Box. Yeah, okay. It comes in a mix. I'm gonna have to try that. Okay. And it's all good, but the middle slices, like at the top, it's like a little gooey still. It's delicious with some Lucky Goat cold brew. Now, I do have to give a shout out to the Frother's Daughter, which is like the coffee truck, and she's like, around town. I looked up the October specials, and they all look amazing. So I will for sure be giving all my money. Do they have pumpkin spice dumbbells, Jacob?
No, they did not.
Producer Jacob, hold off strong on pumpkin patch picks. Hold off strong.
All right, I'll try.
Are you pumpkin whey? A little pumpkin protein shake?
Okay, I think that might be pretty gross. If that's the thing.
I don't know, but all right. And do you have any local pumpkin favorites?
I'm not too big into pumpkin, honestly, but I would go with like a flavored cold brew, pumpkin spice, Lucky Goat.
PSLs.
Solid. Well, enjoy fall, and hope this was a helpful listen onto things that are going on in denominational life. And we thank you guys for listening, and we'll be back next week. Shiplap Scriptures, we think.
Talking Bible verses.
We'll talk to you then. Have a great week. See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Local Dive, a podcast diving into deep and shallow musings about Christ, the church, and culture. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow The Local Dive on social media and continue the conversation with us on Instagram and Twitter at The Local Dive Pod.